Hi everyone, thank you for joining us here on VodTalk. We are your youth fluent hosts, Alisha, Ahmed and Wafa. So, 1 in 3 people in the UK experience a mental health problem every year, and 20% of teenagers will have experienced depression by the time that they reach adulthood. Yet a huge 30% of these teenagers are never ever treated for it.
It's clear that mental health is largely ignored by society. In today's episode, we hope to understand the causes and the effects and potential ways to help the younger generation just in general on the topic of mental health and dealing with mental health. A report from The Guardian this year showed that back in 2018, over 800 young people took their lives.
And in 2019, by that time, suicide was the second leading cause for death among teenagers that were the age of 13 to 19 years old. So there was clearly a gradual climb up in numbers there. So
So, in today's episode, we are joined by Elijah, Sumayya, and also Amirah. Hi.
hi everyone.
Hello.
So how are you guys? You guys good?
I'm good. How are you?
So
Yeah, good.
starting. So first, I'm going to start off with just a briefing of mental health. What do you guys know any examples of mental health issues or problems or disorders in general?
So like
Elijah?
depression.
Oh, sorry, Sumayya.
I was just saying like
Um,
depression and like eating disorders and stuff.
Yeah, eating disorders is one example. Elijah, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's a massive spectrum. There's minute mental health problems and there's extreme ones, but they all so it can range from depression, OCD, and like you know, saying eating disorders, but even like little things that we think are normal in society, like stress, that could be a mental health disorder if it gets to a certain extent.
Exactly. Amirah, have you got anything to add?
No, yeah, I agree. Like there's eating disorders, there's just social like you could have social anxieties and stuff like that.
And do you think this is to you, Amirah? Do you think it's some are common among teenagers, or some are more common than others, especially right now?
I feel like the most common one would probably be depression or eating disorders, because I know there's eating disorders are a lot more fueled by like social media, and then that's growing a lot as well. So like eating disorders would be a lot more prominent as well.
Exactly, that's true. I've heard a lot about that, and I've actually heard a lot of talk about depression, and I think that I've known people who have suffered, unfortunately, and are suffering. So, if we could go into a bit more detail, would anyone like to talk about a specific disorder, just to let our audience know what you do know about it? For example, depression, eating disorders, OCD, because it could be a foreign concept or disorder to someone out there. So, whoever would like to start.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think one of the big ones that people definitely have misconceptions about are eating disorders, because like the typical idea you have when you think of an eating disorder is someone not eating, starving themselves, or bulimia, where you eat a lot and then you throw it up. But there are others where you just eat and eat and eat as a coping mechanism for other things going on in your life. So it's important to know that there are different types of certain like headings. Yeah.
Yeah, and it could be harder to spot a disorder than you think. It could be a lot more quiet than just openly being upset or sad about things. Like depression is a lot to yourself. People don't tend to share that they're depressed, so it could be hard to identify it as well.
That's true. This kind of brings us on to the fact that mental health issues and disorders are not really spoken about. Like you said, they're hidden. So, yeah.
And I feel like it's quite a large spectrum. Like I feel as though so for example, depression, there's so many different types and there's so many different like symptoms for different people, which I think people don't kind of know about. They think, oh, this is like a generic one, kind of
like oh, you're sad
or you're feeling low, but it's not. It's so many different things that come into one, like insomnia or even staying awake, anxiety, all of those things like add up, which again, it's because it's not talked about. I feel like people don't really know too much about and don't feel like they can spot it when they either have it or see someone with it. And do you feel like our generation, what do you feel like our like take on mental health is? Like, what is our attitude towards it? Do you guys have any idea or like opinions on it?
I think mental health is a lot more seen in our generation than it is with the older generations, because we're learning a lot more about it as the days go by. So it's easier to go to your friend than it would be to your grandparents with depression, because I feel like your friends would get it more than anyone else would, because it's just kind of how we've grown up with a lot more awareness about situations.
Yeah,
that's a really good
I
point.
definitely.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, I definitely think the conversation is opening up a lot more. I think if you look back to like the end of World War II, like a lot of people have been suffering with PTSD, but it wouldn't have been talked about as much. And while we still have a long way to go, there are like gender differences, people feeling like they still can't open up, even in the 21st century. It is, we have a more progressive outtake on mental health disorders as a whole.
Yeah, there's still a lot more stigma around the idea as well, especially in some cultures.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay, so
like
Sumayya,
I feel like it's not talked about as much, and it's not.
Are you okay? Wafa?
Sorry, you can carry on. Yeah.
Oh no!
I was just gonna say
like,
that. I was just going to say, because it's not talked about enough, I feel like a lot of people are kind of embarrassed, but it's not something you should be embarrassed about. It's because it's not talked about that as much that people, like, especially what I realized with my friends is specifically in schools and stuff, everyone tries to joke about it, and it's just, people see it as like something to make fun of, but it's not, it's actually really, really serious.
So you think like it's desensitized a bit?
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think so as well, because it's so easy to hear someone say, "Oh my god, I'm so depressed." Like, I'm so depressed, but they're not depressed. It's just something that's a word that's been overused.
Yeah.
True.
Definitely.
So, yeah. So, maybe what do you think about our generation's attitude? Like, is it all positive? Is it still negative? What is your opinion on it?
I think that it's gotten a lot better, but there is still like a lot of room for improvement, because as you said, there's a lot of like still negative like stigmas around it, like tied to it. So as it's gotten better, more people can talk about it, but there's still a long way to go.
Definitely, I think so. But I agree with you guys that it has gotten a lot better. So, what are the problems that you do see? Like you said, there's a lot of room to improvement. So, what exactly? Do you know anything like in particular that you think is wrong with our generation's attitude, or even other generations?
The fact that it's like so like people can joke about it so easily, I think
That's true.
it's been taken from like a serious matter to more of like a joking thing, where people they can talk about it more easier, but not as serious.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's like two sides. Like in a way, it's like lightening it up, making it less taboo, I guess, and more lighthearted. But at the same time, it's then
Taking
seen
the
as
credit
not
away.
serious. So
Yes.
yeah, but do you think it is still taboo in society? Because that was a big word that was used, especially like in older generations. Mental health was just simply taboo, and I think that people didn't want to talk about it, which meant therefore people couldn't get help for it either. Is it still like that?
I feel like it is in some cultures, but not necessarily as a whole. So, like in schools, I feel like there's no taboo. It's like you go to your teachers, they'll understand. But sometimes there's like a grey area where it could be translated wrong. So it's like, oh, you're sad, just get up and go for a walk or something like that. But it's not, there's a lot more gravity to the situation than people realize.
I understand. I kind of get what you're saying. So do we talk about it enough then? Why is it hard? Like, why couldn't someone who is suffering with an eating disorder, what would stop them from going right to their teacher or their friend or their family member and just saying, I really need help, or telling them what's going on? What, like, do you
I
guys?
think because there's so much information out there for people to know everything, that people do get the wrong idea a lot of the time, where they either think their problem isn't like good enough, or like they haven't reached a certain threshold to like classify it as an eating disorder, as depression, as OCD, whatever it is. And that leads them to kind of shy away from the topic of it. Or like Amirah was saying, like cultural differences. Like, I know definitely there are a lot of people of color in London and like the United Kingdom as a whole, or even across different countries, who still are kind of stuck in this 20th century and earlier mindset that mental health disorders are a kind of weakness, or if you can't get over something yourself, that asking for help is a sign of like showing that you are a weak person and you can't handle things by yourself.
Yeah. Why do you think it's people of color, guys? Like, why?
I think that's just something that stems from a lot of how people are brought up. So if you tend to know one thing, it's going to be harder to change your mind. So if you're growing up with your parents not being able to be emotionally open, you're going to tend to be like that. And that's just how it is culturally as well. A lot of cultures aren't open.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like adding on to that, because it wasn't talked about as much like a couple of years ago. So like our parents' generation, I feel like they just kind of thought it was normal and had to get on with it. And because it's so normal, like everyone feels like this, but that's not okay. Like they feel like, oh, you just have to get over it. It's how everyone feels. But realistically, they don't realize the severity of the situation, how it can affect people. And I feel like that's we're able to understand how we feel and understand more as we're learning about it, right? But because that's why a lot of people, and even teachers, and like how people struggle to speak to their teachers or speak to their parents about it, is because they don't not understand it, but because they obviously, when in their time it was more difficult to speak about it, it wasn't as big of a deal. Like everyone said to just ignore it. So I feel like they don't understand the idea of it affecting us so much and us wanting to do something about it. So I also feel like that's why a lot of people struggle to speak to like their parents.
The stigma is very deep in the culture. It's hard to just break apart just in like a couple of generations.
Yeah. So why do you guys, adding on to that, why do you guys feel like it's important to talk about it? Or how do you feel like we can offer support for our peers or fellow teenagers who are who need help?
I think part of the problem with teenagers not opening up is that it's been too late. Like people think they've like been set in stone. This is how they're going to be for the rest of their life, and it is quite easy to fall into that absolutist mindset where you think like nothing will ever get better. So if you start younger, start in primary school, when like children are like under 10, and like you don't need to go into full depth and like explain everything. Children do pick up on behaviors like a lot easier than someone who's older, and can see both the positives and negatives of an eating disorder, depression, whatever it is. I think if you just start a simpler conversation from earlier childhood, where you create a safe space for children to open up about their feelings and how they're coping with everything, that would be a good start.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Anyone? Sumayya?
I think it's important for people to talk about it, so it can be normalized, as like just said, from a young age. So then like, because the older generation, they didn't talk about it, it was normalized for them to view it as something as taboo. But if we were to start normalizing, like, to talk about it, eventually it'd become like, I don't know how to word it, but better to like not taboo when talking about it.
Yeah.
I feel like talking about specifically the signs, because like you were saying earlier, people just think being depressed is just being sad or like not being able to sleep properly at night. But there's obviously a lot more going on. So talking about it as in explaining to people like this is what it actually is, this is how to notice it, this is how to notice it in yourself, because some people aren't even aware of their own symptoms because of how deeply rooted their problems are. They just think, oh, I just haven't been able to sleep properly for 2 weeks, and that's completely normal. So like telling people like, no, that isn't normal, and offering more information will help people make some realizations as well.
Do you feel like in your own personal experience, like it's talked about in schools and like in have you guys?
I feel like
Sorry.
So it is talked about, but I feel like it's kind of the bare minimum. Like you can talk about it all you want, but we're not really talking about anything important. So you can tell people like depression is everywhere like this, but what does it look like?
Yeah.
What are we supposed to do if we do know somebody who's depressed? You can't just go and impede on their privacy and go and tell the teacher like, oh, my friend's depressed. Like they're not going to want that. How do you approach somebody who is?
Yeah, I feel like not a lot of people are educated enough on the signs on how to approach it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, I feel like social media is like a really major factor about it. So do you guys so obviously there are positives and negatives of social media, but do you feel like it's just like a major bad impact, or do you feel like social media can have a positive impact on your
It
mental health?
depends. It really depends because there's one side of social media that's what we want. Like it's telling information about people, it's telling them about new movements in the world, it's giving information about depression. But there's other social media parts where it's not so great.
Yeah.
So it's a
I
weird
think,
spectrum. So you're gonna have to find. Yeah.
Sorry, Elijah.
I think social media is great for spreading the message and like raising awareness towards certain things, and not even just mental health, like other problems as well. But also, it does create a platform where people can find things to compare themselves to, and point out the negatives in themselves because they don't look a certain way or portray themselves in a certain way. And 90% of the time, everything people see on social media isn't even real. The people who are posting these things don't even look like that themselves, and they make everyone feel bad, including the poster. And it just, I don't know, it is like, it leans towards being a negative tool for mental health problems because
No, definitely. And I feel like everything on social media kind of trends. So for example, this element, I was listening to this in school. People didn't know what the idea of hip dips were, like when it goes in when you have hips. But being on social media, people have pointed it out, and that's again become
That's how it was with me as well.
Exactly, it's become
because I had no idea what hip dips were, and then I went on social media and I found out that people were insecure about it. So then I was like, wait, should I be? But now I realize I'm not. I'm not now. But at the time, I was younger, and I was like, "Wait, what? Why? What is this?"
Yeah, and it's always like a trend. Sorry.
I also definitely think body image being a trend is just a horrible thing social media portrays, because back in the 2000s, like being skinny was like the way to go. Like having no meat on your bones would be like the ideal body type. But then now you look more into celebrities like the Kardashians and who promote like the BBL lifestyle. And, it just, I don't know, like in 10 years time, like, it will change again. And now social media just like allows people to see everything. And like, it's not anything the radio could have done, that, like the news on the TV could have done. It's because this is all like 24/7. People are on their phone from like 12 p.m. to 3 a.m. It's horrible.
I also feel like it's so harmful because a lot of young children are exposed to social media as such, like,
Young
and
ages.
their mind is like, they just soak it up. It's just like they're just set on what they see.
Yeah.
So and it's getting more convenient.
No, definitely. And I feel like they're able to see it so much more, so it can be used in such a positive way where it's like, showing that this is not the real thing, and embracing, like, if when kids see like celebrities like them, and it makes them feel like more accepted. But then when you see opposite, it has such a bounce effect, which I feel like that's something that needs to be.
So do you guys think that anything should change on social media then? I mean, what do you think clearly something needs to change?
I feel like kids shouldn't be on social media, not nearly as much as they are. So like, it's so ideal to get social media once you go into secondary school, get Snapchat, get Instagram, get all of these platforms, but they're not as regulated as we think they are. Like, you can say that it's regulated, but you can't put an 11-year-old filter, and then 11-year-olds are just exposed to teenagers who have all of these idealistic lives, and then it just creates these images that are usually really hard to obtain. So having children on social media would probably be the first step. Like, I know I don't put my little sister on social media. She's not I don't want her to be on Instagram at such a young age.
Yeah, I think that is like a really dangerous social media to have.
Because like what people show on social media isn't, you're not going to show negative elements of your life. You're going to show everyone the good parts and see, guys, look at this, or what people think is, especially if you're impressionable and young. Exactly. You think, oh, this person is living this ideal life, but they're not showing everything. They're showing just the parts that they want to see.
And people don't realize this, so they're thinking, oh, their life is so perfect. Why isn't mine like that? But it's not real.
I definitely think.
Oh, no, go on, Elijah.
Sorry, Alisha. I was going to say, I definitely think while having restrictions in place to have children not be on social media is like, it's a good factor towards it. It also is really up to the individual, because it's not just children who are being affected by this. It's like, it's anyone up to like the age of 90, or like, you know, they like, if an individual is purposely choosing to like view celebrities who make them feel bad about themselves like constantly, that like, while it isn't 100% their fault, they do need to like take a look at themselves and see like what is causing this pain in their life. Yeah, create self-awareness, and you know, they need to find out how to better themselves, which the first step would be to take themselves, like, not like take it completely away, but limit their exposure.
Yeah, Elijah, I'm really glad you said that, because I actually wanted to ask, like, who do you think needs to interfere? Should it be parents or school, or should it be like that obviously not just social media, but should it be the apps, those social media companies themselves? Because like you said, you're right that a young person, they would need to be aware, but it's hard for someone who is like as young as like 10 or 11 to stop and think to themselves like social media is causing this, or I'm going to become, you know, I don't think they'll think that at the age. So what do you think needs to be done in that scenario?
I think what schools could do is you know, create assemblies or presentations to show students, like, not tell them, because if you're told something, you'll do the complete opposite, like, especially if it's like your teacher, like, you know, that's just something everyone does. But I think definitely like parents should look out for their children and just, you know, let them know that like they don't need to spend all day on their phones. There are other things in life. I mean, I don't really do anything else, but you know, you know, I think I keep saying, you know, and you don't know because I haven't said it yet, but I think, you know, that definitely should be the start with schools and like authority figures telling children, if that's where we're starting. If it like, there are 30-year-olds and everything, and that could be the social media companies, like you said, Alisha, but they, like, I think schools should definitely create awareness towards how damaging social media can be, especially to a growing child.
Yeah. Maybe younger children need. Oh, sorry, Wafa. Was you? Okay. I was gonna say maybe younger children need someone like us, like a role model, to give like a personal statement or just like advice that is a bit more personal rather than. I think assemblies are really good actually, and presentations are helpful, especially when it's coming from like authority. But at the same time, it's really nice to have a voice that you might like be more persuaded to. Yeah, like if I was in year 7, for example, I mean that's a really like focused age group, but if I was a younger teenager and I had someone older just like telling me and my peers, just raising a bit more awareness about mental health and telling us like about our environment and how like not to let things get to you and what to do, and I think it would have changed a lot for other people as well as myself.
Yeah, I also feel like kids are on, so like young, very impressionable children are on social media and have these platforms, like, and they're on it all the time at such a young age. I feel like it's also like a parental duty, because realistically, if we're trying to be, you know, what's genuinely going to happen in like a short amount of time, people aren't going to stop posting what they're going to post, right? They're not going to post. They're going to stop posting these ideal lives. So it's kind of for young kids. I mean, young, like 7, 8, 9, who still have these phones and are on like TikTok and on, you know, Instagram. I feel like it's so important to kind of limit that, and as a parent, kind of explain before you allow them to go into this whole new like world.
Yeah.
Social media they don't understand.
Maybe we need to change the ideal life, like you said. Do you think? Wait, did you say that you think that it could change like over time?
No, I really like realistically. I'm saying in like a shorter amount of time, for example, like the next 5 or 10 years,
Yeah.
it's probably going to become more every how people are going to filters are going to be more like popular and the
Oh, you
editing
think it will
apps.
increase?
Yeah, like so exactly. So realistically, I feel like you need to take more precaution to educate and like try and prevent them from thinking this is and not letting them go into like social media with such with such oblivion. Do you kind of know what I mean?
So in general, what could we do to support the cause for mental health, especially like the way our generation is now and everything that we've talked about? What do you think needs to be done?
More information given.
I was going to say, relating to Amirah's earlier point, noticing signs and like educating teenagers. If you want to like support your peers, educating teenagers on what signs of depression mainly, because that's what does affect our age group the most. But other mental health disorders as well. But yeah, noticing signs would probably be my input.
And I also think that understanding how to approach it as well.
Oh yeah, that's really important too. Because I think even once you have all that information, how are you going to apply it? How are you going to...
What are you supposed to do about it?
When it's needed. Yeah, exactly. I think like a nice point to finish off is that I remember a teacher at school once, we were talking about mental health actually in school. And then this really nice teacher said that she was just talking about how when you ask your friends, how are you and are you okay, the question is kind of just thrown off or brushed aside, and we have this like conditioned response to just say I'm fine, I'm okay. And she was saying like ask again, just don't ask once, like ask maybe a second time or a few times, because you might get a different answer, because we just automatically say like yeah I'm fine, but maybe if your friend asks you again, or if you ask a friend again, they might tell you differently and they might say like no actually I'm not okay, and then you get a different response. So that's one thing that we can like take from today, I think.
Yeah.
And also I feel like, sorry, one other thing just really quickly, I feel like trying to make people feel like you're a comfortable like space and person to talk to about problems like these, like making sure that people know that you're available to speak and you're available to help and you like understand. I feel like it's so important. Like when you don't feel comfortable with someone, you don't really want to talk to them about situations like how
to add on to that, I think confidentiality is really important, because if you can't build that trust with someone, make sure you won't tell anyone else, because I think that's another reason why so many people, and I'd say especially boys, don't open up, is because they think they've made themselves vulnerable, they've opened up, and now they've just let themselves out there, and that's something that's really holding them back from seeking out help. Even if they do trust their friends, it's not, the trust isn't at 100%. It's not fully there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like image is really important as well. So if you've given everybody an image that this is who you are, telling people that something else is happening in your life will change that image, and it's a big adjustment. So being vulnerable itself is very hard.
Yeah. Elijah, you see how you mentioned mental health awareness for men, and how it's a bit more difficult. It's just a bit of a different situation. I think that's a really good. I think that is quite a big topic, to be honest. Maybe we might need a follow-on episode for that, because it's like I think there's a lot to talk about, and we didn't.
I was just gonna to expand on it. I would just say, like, I think one of the main reasons men don't really open up about their mental health feelings and like if they have a disorder is like a unwillingness to show femininity, which might be rooted in misogyny. Again, another whole episode. But yeah, I think it definitely, like, yeah, not to take away from the struggles of women at all, but it is, like, I think, I have no statistics at all, but I think men are much less likely to open up. And I think suicide rates of men are a lot higher.
They actually,
because they don't open up. Yeah, they take it to the end, and I'll let someone else speak now.
Yeah, it's just harder to open up and then therefore get help. So that's definitely a huge thing that needs to be tackled. So.
So specifically, do you guys have any specific, for example, there's hotlines or there's like any way that, you know, specific things that our audience, if they need to, they could go to you for support, or do you guys know any specifics?
I think there's one, Samaritans. I don't know the number, but I know.
Yeah, you're right. To like expand on that a bit, the Samaritans have a 24-hour hotline, which is like they provide emotional support for young people, and it is 24 hours, which is amazing. Their hotline is 116-123. So it's really good that you said that, Sumayya, because it's important to know and to share with people, just to know that there's, you know, somewhere you can get support from.
Yeah.
There's also, yeah, I know. So I think there's Childline as well for children going through abuse, which will then lead to mental health disorders, which is 0800 1111. That's 41. Yeah. Wafa, you
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say, Assist Line is one that I know that a lot of people feel really comfortable with. It's confidential and it's 24 hours. It's specifically for anyone who's contemplating suicide. If anyone needs to talk, like if they need to talk in that state, you know, or even if they're contemplating or feeling like that's the part they want to go on, it's 24 hours and it's very, very confidential. So, but I just thought I'd also say that these and other services will be linked in the description down below. So that was a great discussion, guys. Thank you so much to all of our guests who joined us, Elijah, Sumayya, and Amirah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
thank
you.
We hope you guys have enjoyed watching, and we hope you guys are more aware of how our surroundings impact mental health. And we hope that our generation is able to work together to support each other in this ongoing battle with mental health.
Yeah. So please continue to join us on VodTalk for more youth fluent episodes and help us raise more awareness for this really important topic and many other important topics. Please watch, follow, like, subscribe. We have platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram where you can watch, comment, and interact. We would really love that if you do that, because me and Wafa and other guests are always here to talk, and we'd like you to let us know whatever you'd like to hear about next. So until next episode, hopefully we'll see you guys. So bye everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.